Okay, it's 4 o'clock. We're going to get started, although I can tell you that nobody has put the PIN number in yet for those who are dialing in and following by the presentation that I sent out. So let me just give it another second or two, minute or two here, and we'll get started. Please be patient. This is the first time that we've tried this with everybody. If you keep your line on your end on mute, this will work out a lot better. Remember, as I'm going through the presentation, if you're watching this, the best way to provide feedback to me is to go ahead and put it into the comments. Towards the end of the presentation, I'll go back into the comments and try to answer everybody's questions. We'll give it one more minute. It's 4:01. And remember, this is about a 60-second delay. When we do training down here in the Texas region, this is typically how we do it now. And we've recently been able to blow this training out to everyone across the U.S. and as well as over into Europe. So I'd really like to get your feedback if this is working for you, if you like this kind of training, so that I can get back to Raj and let him know the type of technology that's available then for him and others to use when the sales caffeine call is on again. So it's 4:02, and I expected Mark Rizzo to get on and open up the bridge. But we've got a lot to cover, so I'm going to put my headphone down and hope that they get on soon. And we're just going to begin to go forward with this presentation. Again, my name is John Hart. I'm the Mobile Practice Director in South Central, which is now Texas. And I'm going to take you through visual selling today. I think the one thing that we all agree is that every customer will persist in a state of rest unless compelled to change. What I'm hoping that I show you here today will help you to compel them to change. So during the next 30 minutes, one of the things that we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to get past the wall that can stall an opportunity during the sales process. One thing I want to mention to you is you may want to take that video that you're seeing right now and make it full screen. It'll make it a lot easier. So how do you sell to somebody who doesn't know what they want because they haven't seen it? Well, you show it to them. One of the things we're going to learn today is exactly how you can do that. The agenda that I have for you is why visual. What is resonating right now with customers, how to look into the future, and what our crystal ball is to do that. So as you can imagine, being in mobile, I see a lot of change going on in the marketplace, and I see a lot of change going on within our customers. What I don't want you to do is to just focus on the demos and such that I'm going to show you today as mobile. I want you to think of them as any application. So as we get into this and I start to show you some of the things that you are going to be capable of doing because of our partnership with a new partner that I'll go into in a few minutes, one of the things that you'll begin to realize right away is that the technology doesn't just apply to mobile. It applies to everything that we do. So if you're talking about SharePoint websites, or you're talking about custom development, or you're talking about mobile, it really doesn't matter. This technology that you'll see will work for everything, and hopefully it will meet your requirements then going forward. So let's go into why visual. Well, you know, the one thing I can tell you is that, and we've heard this over and over again about consumerization of IT, and it's really, really happening, folks. And every one of us have smartphones. We all get our email on them. We're all depending on them for our calendars. We all get to bring our own devices in to do that. All of this is really causing a change of control within the enterprise. And a lot of this now is getting pushed from the business side and not from IT. And so one of the things that come along with that is an expectation, right? So you know how it is, and I bet I could say to each one of you, how many applications do you have on your smartphone today? And you would go back and probably tell me between 20, 25, maybe 30, maybe more. But one thing that you will tell me is that you only use a few of them. And part of the reason that this phenomenon occurs is that there's an expectation of what the application is going to look like, what you're going to experience when you use it. I got to tell you, that doesn't just apply to mobile anymore. That expectation is entering into the enterprise. And what's happening is that where design used to take a back seat, design is now up in the front seat. And design is really pushing to where technology is going. And so as we're out and we're talking to our customers, design and the visual appeal of what they're going to be using is very, very important. So let's go into this just for a minute. There is a business problem that I'm going to address here. The business problem is that people are beginning to expect this elegant design. Users, the customer, they expect their business software to be well designed. The UI UX person that, like I said, has had the back seat in the past, they're really becoming a focal point for the way technology is going to be designed in the future. And then, sorry about that, we need to go back one here. Jumped ahead too fast. Just get to this real quick. Also around multi-devices. I mean, everyone is expecting whatever they're using, whether it's a notebook at work or they're using an iPad or their smartphone, they're beginning to want to have access to these resources all the time. And they don't want any training. They want to be able to just sit down, look at it, and know exactly what to do. And they want it tomorrow. I'm sure everybody out there knows exactly what I'm talking about. They want it as quick as they can get it. They want it to be useful. They want it to be appealing. All of these things get factored in, not just to the mobile apps that we do, but to every app that we do. And so there's some process problems that go along with this. We can't do this and at the same time put all of our requirements on paper. And by the time we do that, validation and how we go through that cycle, user acceptance just comes too late. And very often, there's no collaboration or clarity, okay? And it's essential if we're going to be able to provide the type of elegant design on multiple devices with no training and doing it very quickly. And so what happens now is that IT is becoming the interpreters instead of the implementers, which is another problem that we're facing. So the consequences of all this are very clear. There's a 70% failure rate of projects being over budget, missing the release date, having missing requirements. 30% rework gets budgeted into projects. Now, I don't know about you, but I know when I'm working on my pricing models, I make sure contingency is always in there. Knowing for the ineffectiveness of some of these processes, you have to do that, right? And so 64% of the features are unused. So they ask for things that aren't necessarily as important as maybe the person asking for them believes they are. And I got to tell you, all of this gets factored into innovation and the fact that they're not able to innovate as rapidly as they would think. And so, yes, it's no wonder that the little man is falling off of the page. The fact of the matter is that all of this combines into a big problem, and one that I think we've addressed. So here's what resonates. The experience of identifying a solution through interaction and visual design. And what I'm specifically talking about here are workshops, but not your typical workshop. Okay? This is a workshop that results in something that's real, something that's tangible. For example, this is Arrow Messenger. It's a concept application, one that came out of a workshop. So when you have a concept workshop, this is where design helps you to win your next engagement. When we go through this type of a workshop, what we're really doing is defining the vision for our customers. We're going through capabilities ideation with them. We're helping them to plan for how they're going to implement that particular application. So let's talk about that for a minute. When you look at this particular application that we're seeing here, and yes, it does set us apart from our competitors. You know, it has a landing page, a message panel. Oh, show you the demo in just a second. There's a pings panel, an events panel. You know, this allows them to actually see the application. Here, let me show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to get out of the presentation for a moment. We'll come back. And I'm going to jump over here. And you should be able to see that application right there. This is Messenger. What Messenger allows the customer to do is to see what it's like to have a different way to distribute messages without having to go through their email system. In this case, they can click on here, go into Messenger. There are different options for them to choose from. There are 3 types of messages: events, pings, and stories. There are groups that they can send it out to. They can go into settings. When they click on settings, they're able to take a closer look at the groups that they belong to, maybe their own profile. If they want to see the groups, they can tap on the groups, open it up by clicking on the Apple user group, and now I can actually see this information here. Now, the one thing I want to tell you is that the technology that I'm using to produce this type of a simulation allows me to bring the same simulation up on the device. So if you were sitting here in front of me today, I could pull this up on the iPhone. And I could give you the opportunity to experience exactly what you're seeing here today as you're going through it. So when I come over here and I would tap on join a group, and I come down through and I say, well, I want to join financial services and I want to join healthcare. And then I say, well, let me go back now and take a look at my groups. I can see there's financial services and healthcare that I've joined. It also gives me the ability to go into the different types of messages. One that I really like are pings. When I click on pings, pings are very much like tweets. I can select a group that I want this to go out to. Let's say it's the Apple users group. And I send them a message that says, don't forget, we have a user group meeting tonight. Done with my keyboard. I'm going to go ahead and send it. And when I do, I can see my last message sent here. We can see up here is received pings. I click on it, and now I can see here are all the pings with mine being the last one going out to that user group. So I think you get the idea that what this does is it really does open a window of opportunity for you to be able to present a vision to the customer about how their solution may look. And it can be on an iPad, it can be on a an Android. It doesn't have to be an iPhone. It can be on a web page. It can be anything that you want it to be. All that you need is a designer that can help you to go through the process of designing this and going through the workshop with your users to get the feedback from them to do that. So let's put this aside for right now and go back to the presentation. And when we look at this, again, you get the idea. You know, this is all available to you, and there's no programming involved. So now you've got to start thinking to yourself, well, if there's no programming involved, how do I do this? How do I put this together? How do I make it look like a real application, and in the end, have that capability for my customer to understand that? Well, simply, what it is, and this is our crystal ball, it's iRise. Now, I'm not really sure if you've ever heard of iRise before, but what iRise is a modeling technology. It allows us to go out and model a solution like the one that you just saw, and it's really, really handy to have in a workshop because it allows me to build scenarios while I'm in there and talking with the customer. So I can go from a very low fidelity type of visualization to a very high fidelity like the one that you're looking at here. So it's got this breadth of capabilities, and it doesn't require a rocket scientist to put it together. Now here are the things that you're going to want to know over on the right side. iRise is now a Sogeti partner. There's no charge for using iRise for any pre-sales work. You can go out there and do that. There's no charge for using iRise for training. So if you have people that are in your particular office that you would like to learn iRise, one of the things that I will do is hold an iRise training course to help them get grounded in the technology. In fact, iRise will even step up and help us to train. Now, if you decide that you want to use iRise on your project because you've gotten out there, the customer likes it, but now you have more design work that you're going to do, you don't have to buy the product. What you can do is essentially rent the software for about $595 a month per seat for as long as you need it. And you can build this back into your pricing model. Now, I will tell you, the technology itself is very expensive. It's probably way out of our league any other way. I mean, upwards, let's say it's over $15,000. But $595 per month per seat, very few projects that you do are going to go longer than 2 months. And so factoring, or at least from a design perspective, your projects may, but the design side of it may take less. It may take longer, but at least you're not going to have to pay a lot of money for the software. Okay, so let me do this. Let me show you a demo of it so that you can get an example of what I'm talking about. And I'm going to go back to Messenger so you can actually see how I put Messenger together using iRise. Going to get out of the presentation, and I'm going to bring iRise up. And this is iRise. You can see here that I have my screen up. I have several screens. If we look up here in the upper left corner, we can see I'm on the landing page. This is my stats page that I'm going to pull up next. And I think let's just go back here and make sure that there we go. My stats page is up. I have my events page and pings and so forth. So I'm going to go back to the landing page and just talk to you about this for a few minutes. You know, I have a choice here. I can tell it whether I want it to be on an iPhone or it's a page or an iPhone 5 or an iPad or an Android phone. So for example, if I wanted to go from an iPhone, like you saw it just a minute ago, and I wanted to see what this would look like on an iPad, I could do that. I can say, let's take a look at it. Now, it won't look real good because it's sized for an iPhone, but I want you to see what happens when I click on the green tab up here. You can see that now it's opening it up in an iPad, right? And it works the same way. And I would have to take that and make it an iPad for each of those screens. I only did it for the first one. But the point is that you have the ability to design for the form factor that you want to design for. So what that does for you is it allows you to go ahead and design for a web page, to design for a custom app, to design for Android. And how do you do it? So what I've got here is I just laid down on this screen an image. That's all that it is. And I have a designer that put the image together for me. And then I just drew down some of the controls that we have across the top. Now, obviously, I can't teach all of this to you in a very quick half-hour session. But the controls that I pulled down allow me to identify this as a button area right here. And when I do that, I can pull an action down, such as I want to do a link. So here's an action. When I drop it, it asks me, where do I want to go? And I can tell it, I want to go to the stats page. And I can also put in a delay so that it has a very realistic feel to it as I'm going through it. And so now I can say I'm done. It's up here. And then I can just take that message that we have right here, click on it, and just take it and drag it up there. And when I do that, it makes that link for me. So that when I'm actually running this, all I do is just click on that now, and it navigates to the next page for me. I hope this has helped you to see how easy this is and how well designed this software is, and how you might be able to use it on your particular projects. I know we're getting close to the end of our 30 minutes. I think we're about 8 minutes out. I'm going to take a quick look and see if anyone's left any new comments over here. And if they have, I'll try and answer those comments for you. Does it generate HTML5, JavaScript, auto-generated code? Does it support an iOS 7 interface? Okay, so the one thing I will tell you is that the iOS 7 interface is really a design. So when you're designing the images that are going to be on the face of the model that you're actually putting together, it's however you design those. And so one of the things that we've done down here in the Texas region is that our designers, and we have a few of them, have access to Adobe Creative Cloud. And so they have access to Photoshop, and they do the design in Photoshop, and then those images can be pulled directly into here. Now that's on a high fidelity visualization. So that allows it to look exactly like the application will look when the customer brings it up on their device or on their screen. Does it generate any code? It does have a code generator. Have I used it? No, I haven't. And what I've heard is that you have to really, really follow iRise guidelines to make it work. So I think like most code generators that we've looked for over the years, it's not quite there. But it really is there when it comes to putting together this type of a model. I think that they'll eventually get there. I don't think they're that far away. There's just too much here to be so far away that they can't get their code generator working a little more completely. But it's not doing that right now. I don't see any other questions up here in the comments area. I would say if you have a question, please put it up there now so that I can answer those for you. In the meantime, I'm going to go back to the presentation. Just leave this up here for a second. And yes, you can use this on pursuits. And it doesn't cost anything, by the way. Okay, so here's what you want to think about with model-driven engineering. And this is all available in the PDF file that you can download. This is the approach that we take. We collaborate through the workshop. It's very team-focused. It's iterative. It's collaborative. Then we create our models very fast. There's no coding involved. They're very realistic. Customer gets the idea right away. And I got to tell you, when you're on a pursuit and you're showing them something that they can't envision themselves, you're already one step ahead of them. And then from an acceleration perspective, I want you to think about this just for a moment. How many times your teams have built business requirement documents that are 100 pages, maybe 150, that eventually have to go offshore. And now what you're doing is you're spending a lot of time trying to get the offshore team to understand the requirements. Think about it if you sent a model over to them, how much more useful that would be. So this whole process gets accelerated. It's a very clear blueprint about what they need to produce. So let me show you the way that we approach using a delivery process for mobile. Here what we do is we go through inspiration and ideation. It allows us to visualize what that concept app is going to look like. We validate that with the customer. We push that into a model, get sign off on the model. Now, think about Scrum. If I had been using Scrum for this, I'd been running sprints where I'm going through iterative sprints with my developers who are writing code and trying to get what the customer wants. With this approach, my designers are doing that. They're going through the iterations. They're learning what the customer wants. They're modeling it. But when it goes to my engineers, what they're going to get is a backlog. They're going to get the requirements that they need to go forward. And this is going to allow them to produce the application. And not only that, but it expedites the process because all of the artifacts that were created for the model can also be used in the application. And think about it from a testing perspective. Now that I have a model that looks exactly like the finished app should look, I can also write test cases against that. So when that application is done, those test cases should validate that it conforms to the model. When I go through final user acceptance testing, I get the application sign off, and now it goes to management. So on the front end of this, we have a lot of innovation. Then we go into the test drive. IT gains a lot of clarity through the process. We get confirmation from the customer. And now we're able to deploy an application probably faster than we've ever done before. So my contact information is up there. For those of you that may have joined late, I apologize. I don't think that we ever got onto the phone call. I think that that's kind of dropped now. But this is being recorded, so you will have an opportunity to come back to this. I would say that if you have any additional questions and you haven't put them up, let me just see if we have more questions up here yet. We do have a few. How do we get it installed? Send me an email, and I'll get you signed up, and then I will send you a link to help you get the technology installed. I would tell you, if you're an account executive, you're probably not the one who wants to get it installed. You probably want to get this to a designer. One of the things that you can do is that there's a reader for this as well. So your designer will put together the iDoc file, and then the reader can read the iDoc file from your computer, or you can send it out to your customers and they can look at it. And one of the things I want to point out is that when they do that, and let me just start this real quick so you can see it, is that down here, you can see this just briefly, it says add a comment. And they can do that. They can add comments in and say this is a comment from a user. And then I can associate it to a widget just by dragging it over and dropping it, and it will associate it. Then I can save it. And when I save that and they send it back to me, I can get all of the comments that came in. Take a look down here below. See here? This is a comment from a user on the landing page. This just came in. So what it allows me to do is to get their feedback and factor that back into how I'm going to improve the interface. Okay, how quickly can we get a consultant ramped up on this, assuming they know nothing about iRise? Well, I got to tell you something. As complex as some of these look, and I think events will look pretty complex to you, I think pings might look complex to you, stories, settings. I got to tell you, folks, this is not so bad. I learned this from scratch myself. There are plenty of videos that iRise has that can help them to get there, but I will tell you what I'll do. If I get enough people that get back with me and tell me that you want to have a couple-hour session to get people started, to get them grounded and start kicking this off so that you can begin to create models for your particular customers so that you can sell more, I will do that. We can hold a couple-hour session. I'll take them through the basics and then point them to how they can go further, and happy to take all of their questions by email, but I will help you to make sure that they know enough about it to get going quickly. Let's see if there are any other questions out here. It looks like that's it on the questions. I would say if there are any others that you have, or you want more information on this, or you want more information on how we're using it right now to win work. If you want to go back to where I published the PDF file and you go into that subdirectory, there are also some videos there of others that we've done. So think about it just for a moment. When I bring this up like this, and I also have another product that I use here. Let's see if I can bring it up real fast. Not sure that I can. I use Camtasia. If you're familiar with Camtasia, one of the things that it does is it allows me to go ahead and record what I'm doing on the screen. And so I'm going to tell it that I'm going to record an area here. And so what I'll do is I'll just take this and I'll record just what this looks like. So now it's getting ready, and I tell it, go ahead, let's record it. This is really cool because now what I can do is I can go in and say, okay, I'm going to go into groups, and I'm going to go to my groups, and I'm going to go into the Apple user group, and I'm going to scroll up, and I don't want events, and I don't want stories, and I'm going to say, that's all I want in my video, and I'm going to stop my video and look over here, and I'm going to play that back for you very quickly. Of course, it's not always as quick as you'd like on here, but one of the things that you'll see is that it plays back as a video, and when it does that, you see it playing back up here. When it does that, this video can be also saved into a PowerPoint deck, right? So when you go back into that subdirectory, you'll find a few of these that I've put up there already for you to take a look at. There's a syntax video up there. There's also a video, oh gosh, what was the other one for? Not really sure right now off the top of my head, but go back. There's a couple videos there you can use, and please don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions. Once again, I'm John Hart. I can be reached at 214-274-8427. My email is john.hart@us.sageti.com. And just send me your questions or who you want to get signed up, that you want training on this, and I'll see that it happens. Thank you so much for today, and please provide feedback on how this worked out for you. If this particular approach to providing information to everybody out there at Sageti works well for you, and this worked well. Thank you, and have a good afternoon.